even though we're totally not ready to start, as various people's comes in. And we just saw another car pull up. How you doing, Joe? Missed you on Sunday.
I was sick.
Yeah? Feeling better?
A little bit.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay, a lot.
A lot bit. A lot better. Much better. And yeah, so we're going to talk about this stuff once we get whoever else just pulled up in here, which will impact the next couple of weeks and January and all that. And then we will end super early so we can get ready for the service, which is kind of the bigger deal tonight. So, hey Marley, how you feeling? Yeah? Not better?
I have stuff to make up and I feel like that.
How much of the not feeling good is the stuff to make up?
10%.
That's a very specific number. I'm sorry to hear that. Huh? Glad you made it. Who brought you?
My mom.
Is she out there? Or did she go away?
Yeah, she's outside.
Is she going to come in?
No.
No. Is that your car with the lights on?
I think maybe.
So I don't want to wait for another family if she's just going to sit out there. But if that's somebody else, I want to wait for them to come in. Because I know Elizabeth is supposed to be here.
Oh yeah, she was talking about coming here.
Mm.
Yeah, she said, see, I have confirmation, so.
Yeah. I know I'm curious. We have no comments or reactions at this point. And I don't have it up here for you to see. But Ben was supposed to be watching. Are you there, Ben? Are you there? And you know what I wonder now? Since we have no comments or reactions, this has happened to me several times now, where I've started a show, and then it's supposed to be live in public, but then YouTube turns it into private so no one can watch it. So I talk for like 10 minutes, and then I realize no one's watching it, and it's private. How do I find that out? Let's see here. I'll go to YouTube dashboard. I'd show you what I'm doing, but that would take extra steps to get the wires all hooked up, and it's just... But if you haven't figured it out, tonight's going to be kind of casual. Does say live. Does say public. But is it actually the one that's supposed to be the one? Oh, there was a thumbs up from somebody.
Which one is it? I got two.
Only one should be actually going live.
The
Got
Inception.
both of them going live. There we go. Someone's watching. We're on. Says David and Alan. There are 6 of you. I'm going to put you guys on the board so my... Can you grab... There's like a black thing in... little black case. There's 2 of them that look just the same as the one that's less thick. So for those of you watching, we're going to have a pretty abbreviated class tonight so we can get Advent services going. We're missing half of the class or so. Yeah, one of them has the wire I need in it. But hopefully we'll get some theology. If you stick around, it'll be worth it. And there's a temple. That's not a Ben temple, though. Or is that the Ben temple? A temple, are you Ben temple? Saying hello. Let's see, I've almost got this hooked up for y'all. Turn this on. Oh, it's going. All right. And then we'll get into business. Why does it look like it's not even shining?
There's blue writing on the screen. In the corner. There's blue writing in the corner. Oh, yeah.
No source detected. Yeah, so that's... We just did detect it. Don't mess with it too much yet. There it goes. And hopefully that'll pop up and we can see it is Aaron, but it is Ben watching. A likely story, Ben. Let's see here. I'm going to do this again. Try to get it to get some source. Why would you not give source out? Because it wasn't plugged in there, maybe? There it goes. There we go. So we got a couple. All right, parents. We're going to talk to you first. And if you're a student at home watching and your parents are not watching, you definitely want to try to take some notes on this part to make sure everything makes sense. stpaulrockford.org/HT is the new poll for the summer Higher Things event. So there was some voting on the first poll, but there was some that didn't vote, and we basically had 2 that were ahead and 2 that were not ahead. And so we're going to re-vote again with the 2 that were ahead, and the 2 that were ahead were Colorado and Tennessee. My family was held back from voting for that first round, but they will be unleashed to vote in the next round. So if you don't want to go to Colorado, you need to gather your resources and vote, because I think my kids are going to vote for Colorado, although you're free, wherever you are, to vote otherwise. So everything we do for Higher Things in the future as a congregation, when we have new information, will be at this link, right? So stpaulrockford.org/HT. So once we get decide which one we're going to, we'll put up the registration form there, and it'll be a form you fill out on the website that'll go to Sue to kind of get rid of some of the paperwork side of things. And also then, soon we will have up there, although we already gave you paperwork for this, the Sheboygan trip in, now I can't remember if it's February. Yeah, it's February. To my knowledge, there is only my family and one other family that has signed up for that. I would really like to have a better showing than that if possible as a group. And I know it's busy time of year, and so we kind of put things off, and paperwork's always a secondary thing, but we really want to get signed up for that so we can go. And I've said it before, but I'm going to keep saying it. Never let finances be the thing that keeps you from these events. We had a formerly very active youth fundraising program at St. Paul. There is lots of resources for making sure you can go to these kinds of events. That's what that fundraising was there for. At some point, we'll have to start putting money back into that. But at the moment, the cost of these events, I think the Sheboygan one's $50. We have the funds to make it so you can go to this. Don't not go because the family's afraid you can't afford it. And that goes for the summer one too. All right, calendar. As we can see, December gets busy and very difficult, and I realized probably sometime yesterday that I've never done this before though, so that's why I'm hesitant. I always feel like I'm kind of gypping you if we miss a class. It never crossed my mind that in December we should just not have confirmation class and start again in January. But it crossed my mind yesterday. I ran it by one elder at least. He said, that's a great idea. So what we're going to do is not have official class next week or the week after, Advent by Candlelight, which would be even crazier because all these tables will be decorated in here trying to do that. That doesn't mean don't come to midweek Advent services. I would like you to consider the midweek Advent service as your class during this season. So that's 7 o'clock next week, and that's 6:30 the week after. And then we will resume in January, which... Now, I don't remember how much I've told you about this here. I know I talked about it in one of the Sunday morning Bible study classes, the shift in class that's going to take place in January. No? Okay. So let's spend a little time talking about the experiment. I have received permission from the powers that be who run the congregation with an iron fist to treat you as guinea pigs for the next 6 months. I get to experiment on you. What we're going to do is totally flip confirmation on its head a little bit in an effort to see if we can't do a better job of helping you grasp your faith individually and personally. Now, I don't know if that even made sense, but I can tell you what will make sense, which is what we're going to do. All right, so here we go. First off, starting in January, this class at 6 o'clock every night is for the parents of the confirmation students. It will be oriented at developing the parental worldview as teachers of the faith in the home. Students are expected/requested to be here, but they are not the primary focus of the classroom. Much like Sunday morning, I'd love you to listen, be involved, kind of grow up in the faith as your parents are absorbing things to take home. I'll talk more a little bit about what we'll talk about or what the class will be about in a moment. But replacing your time in this class is going to be once a month, at least to start with, once a month, one-on-one sessions with me. So you'll get your own private individual class at which I'm going to scare you. and do mean things. No, what we'll do is we'll sit down, we'll talk about life, and through chatting about life, hopefully, I'll be able to discover what you know, what you don't know, what you want to know, what you're curious about, what you believe, what you don't believe, and tailor your own education to where you personally are ready to grow in the faith. And that also will apply to homework a little bit. Not a ton. There'll still be some of the same, basically the Old Testament videos, and we're almost done with Lutheranism 101. So it's mostly going to be videos for the spring. But that one-on-one time will let us develop an understanding of each other and also let me develop an understanding of what you need to know to grow in your faith. Yeah? So the way that's going to work is through this same link that's already out there in the bulletin every week. So parents, this is kind of for your knowledge. If you go to calendly.com/revfisk/sitdown, there are blocks of time on a calendar that you can just click on one of those, put your name and stuff in, send it off, and that time is immediately blocked off of my calendar so that I see your name and I see that you're going to show up, and nothing else can go onto my calendar at that point. So you have kind of total access to booking me with restrictions through that. Right now, there are fewer times available on that than there will be in January. I'll create more times in the week for this purpose so that we can do this. But again, this is something for you to do once a month. And it doesn't have to be the same day every month. It can fit in your schedule where it fits. But the goal is, again, to sit down. We'll probably do it either in the kitchen here, or we'll do it at my home if the family's around and we can create space in my house, or we can do it in here if need be. But you bring your child, drop your child off, we're going to chat for an hour, and off they go. And in that then, again, you have the freedom to choose when that's going to be. If you got 2 kids, we can block it, try to block it so they're right next to each other. Actually, both moms in here have 2 kids. So you don't have to make multiple trips. And then one of the goals in this is that this is not merely a during the school year thing, but so far as confirmation is concerned, this is a year-round thing. So once a month, year-round. I know, crazy. But instead of 4 times in the month, it's just 1. So it's not quite as bad. And ideally, it's going to be so valuable to you that after you've been confirmed, you're going to want to keep doing it. So it is also available for post-confirmands to continue being discipled in their faith and growing in their faith throughout the high school experience. And I really hope that you who are being brought into the ground floor on this will find the value in that. And with that then, it won't have to be once a month through high school. It can be once every quarter. It can be once every 2 months. You will just have the freedom to get on my calendar, to sit down with me and say, hey, Pastor, here's what's going on in life. Here's what I'm confused about. Here's what I need to know. Where does the Bible say this? My friends are saying this. What do we do about that? And I'll be able to help you out with that. Yeah? As opposed to right now, it's like fire hose, right? It's like you walk in and I spray you with what I think you're supposed to know because we only got so much time and then it's all over. That's what I want to get away from. I want to get into a path of lifelong learning your faith as best as we are able. So again, all this information will be in the bulletin going forward, especially in January. This is always there already. But for those of you that are here, do you have any questions about the process or what I just said, if it didn't make sense, to try to clarify? Yeah, kids look so excited. Ah. I know. We're changing everything. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I can say it all again, but right now? Later? Well, I'll summarize it again in a moment, but I just heard a door open, and I'm curious if someone else came in. So I don't want to repeat it and then have to repeat it. No? I'm sure we'll have to repeat it many times. So confirmation's shifting a little. Class will still be at this point, 6 p.m. every week, but it's going to be geared at parents. And then for your sake, we have a calendar system set up where you will be meeting with me 1 time a month for 1 hour to do direct discipleship or direct catechesis, which means we're going to talk about life. How you doing? What do you know? What do you not know? Here's your Q&A questions. I mean, if you know it already, fine. Let's talk about something else. Let's focus on what you're curious about in knowing God and about God and preparing for communion. And especially for those of you who are getting confirmed this year. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Yeah? You ready? Yeah. Well, and part of it that'll be some of the conversation for those of you who are wanting to be confirmed this year is, are you ready? And why do you think so? Yeah? What do you believe? What do you know? We'll take each of it on an individual basis. The goal is not to keep you out. The goal is to bring you in, but to have you in with the full desire to be in. Yeah? Again, Calendly will let you have a lot of freedom as to when you want to sign up. There'll be some times that are available on Sundays, probably sometimes available on Saturdays, sometimes available on during the middle of the week. So wherever fits your schedule. And again, you can change it so it doesn't have to be the same time every single month. If there is trouble finding enough time for everybody, we will have to reassess it. But I think we'll be fine at the end of it. So, make sense? Huh? All right. Maybe. I understand that it is the middle of December. It is dark outside. Everyone's tired. But you all seem dead. You're right. It's not the middle of December. It is the beginning of December. Which is worse? That's my question. Is it worse to be... Well, the middle is closer to Christmas, which means closer to presents. So that's better.
Aunt Danny is visiting for Christmas, like on the 24th.
That's cool. Do you know where they're staying?
Is he staying for his birthday?
The 29th.
I think he's staying.
I think you're going to stay with some friends, and then Samuel will stay with us after service.
Cool. We're going to see them in church? They're going to come visit?
If they stay at our house.
That'd be great. I was just thinking about Scott 2 days ago.
I think they found the church.
Yeah, I heard they were having some interesting times visiting places.
In their backyard.
Geckos? Well, it's Florida.
I caught one when I visited over there.
Did the gecko try to sell you insurance? No?
I don't think she did. We were in like Michigan and she like killed like so
I
many
didn't
frogs.
mean to.
At least I buried them.
How did you kill frogs on accident?
I tried to get them to swim.
There you go. I have a friend who likes animals.
I put it in the sink. I was in like 4th grade or something.
I have a friend who likes animals and tries things, Elizabeth. You should meet her. Her name is Meredith. She has killed a few animals in her time by trying to be friendly. She'll tell you the story.
I don't think it
Blow drying a hamster. Yeah, don't do that. Doesn't work. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was sad. And then she put a lizard on the stove to warm him up, and that didn't work so well. So you can learn from each other about what not to do for little animals. So our Q&A is incomplete, but I'm hoping by the time we start meeting in January, I will have the total Q&A available to just give to you. And again, we will be able to look at it, but not necessarily go into detail on every question unless you have no idea about the question. And that's sort of what I'm really looking to learn from you is what do you actually know? What do you actually believe? The Lord's Supper is not a matter of knowing enough stuff. So that's not really the goal, is to make sure you know enough stuff. But it is a matter of believing what Christianity teaches. And you can't really believe what Christianity teaches if you don't have any clue what it teaches at all. And so the goal is going to be to figure out what you believe and then equip you to believe more if you don't already believe it. And in some ways, because it'll be private, it'll be a chance for you to really question things. Feel free to disagree, right? To say, Pastor, I don't get this. This doesn't make sense to me. Why is that? And we'll take our time if we have to, and we'll just walk you through what those things mean. And maybe, again, if that means for you personally that confirmation takes another year, then that's not a bad thing. The goal is not to get confirmed. The goal is not to graduate. This is not graduation, right? The goal is to be ready to stand in the faith the rest of your life. And the worst thing we can do is rush that. So with all that said, and I want us to stop probably just at 35 after or so I can be ready for church tonight. I want to come back and hit on number 14 in our questions. I think we talked about this one last week. Yeah, I think we did. I know we talked about this one, right? Arrogance is refusing to believe God's word, such as denying the Ten Commandments. We didn't talk about this one? That's true. So with regard to it being last week, my statement was false. But with regard to it being 2 weeks ago, was my statement false as well for that reason? That's the question I'm asking now. Yeah. No? Okay. Well then, let's do it now. Let's go ahead and read this one together. I'll ask the question and you guys respond. So you believe that breaking the Ten Commandments is the natural thing to do? Sadly, yes. I believe that all people born in the normal way inherit a love of evil, just as we inherit many other diseases and their effects. So the big old-fashioned words for this are original sin. I know we have talked about that in here this year. Original sin meaning first Adam's sin, what Adam did, and then second, our own continual guilt. And all of that language is helpful if it makes sense, but it might not. And so what I want you to get instead, or with it, is that sin or evil is natural to us as humans. It's what we do normally. We have to try to be good. We don't have to try to be evil. And the easy way to prove this is to ask people who they put first, themselves or others. And anybody who's honest is going to admit they put themselves first, yeah? And that selfishness is the inherent evil that leads to everything else that's wrong with the world: war, poverty, disease, all those things. But to see then that this natural evil and love of self is inherited, where did I write it up there? No, but it's here. Inherited is the point of this question. So, I don't remember where I was talking about this one. It might have been Sunday morning Bible study? Yeah, it was. The idea that it's not fair that we're all going to be judged by God because of what Adam and Eve did. It's not fair. What would be, well, let me think about how I want to aim this. Is it fair if somebody does something? Let's think of the worst possible scenario we could think of. There is a woman who is pregnant with her child, and she abuses her body and does illicit drugs and causes damage to the child, and the child is born with brain damage because of her behavior. Is that fair?
No,
Right? Why?
because it wasn't the kid's fault that the mom decided to behave that way.
Okay, so if the way we're going to judge fairness and justice is based on it's only about me, right, and never about us, then it wouldn't be fair. But what does that mean then? Because it's happening to this child and it's not fair to the child, that life isn't fair, or that God isn't fair, or that God isn't just, that God doesn't have justice? Because there's kind of two ways you can look at this here. Because if it's happening and it's not fair, and there's a God who's in charge of it all, that would all mean that that God's not fair, which would mean that that God's not good. But what if that God is good, and our view of fairness is the thing that's askew? What if it is perfectly fair for a child to receive the fruit of the parent's behavior? Is it, think about it this way. If a child is, if a parent is super strong, super smart, and super good looking, and then their child is super strong, super smart, super good looking because they inherited everything from their parent. Is that fair?
Not exactly.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing that it happened to the kid, I guess.
Mm.
But, like, the idea of fairness isn't really a thing. It's about events and bad events that happen in lives that we can't control because we're not God.
I like what you say about the idea of fairness is not really a thing, right?
Like, we all interpret it differently.
There's some of that. And then the other side of it is, does it change anything to say that's not fair? No, because the way life is the way life is, regardless of what you want it to be and what you think fairness is going to be. Yeah? So the way life is, fair or unfair seeming to us, is that when you have a body that then makes another body, whether this is an amoeba becoming another amoeba, or two monkeys making another monkey, or two humans making another human, the piece that breaks off and becomes a new person is going to be made from the stuff of the first person. And I would actually say that's fairly fair if you think about it, right? Like, I'm going to take my own substance and make something that's part of it and becomes its own thing, and it's just like me. It's got all of my stuff in it. Well, that makes sense. That's perfectly normal seeming, right? It would be weird to have it be different than me in such a way that my parts were never there. So when you have two humans making another human, you do have two different people making another person. So there are different parts that come together. You are like your mother, you are like your father, but you're not like some other person that you're not related to at all. You don't have their DNA, at least in the narrow sense. So that's normal, right? So now take that, like your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, the way you think, your height, all these things that you get from your parents, and that's just the way it is. And now ask the question, what about being good or being evil in an ultimate and personal way? Can two beings that are evil in ultimate, personal, individual ways combine and make a new being that's not evil?
Because they're both evil.
Yeah, they're both evil, right?
Well,
Ca-
what if the kid realizes that what the parents are doing isn't right and
That's good. So you're talking about now having an intellectual realization that a certain set of actions are evil, and I don't want to do those anymore. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about, let me put it in a different sense. Can an apple tree grow cows? No. Why? Because it's an apple tree. It grows apples. Can an evil tree grow good? No. It's an evil tree. It grows evil. You need a good tree to grow good. And so when we're talking about sin and evil, we're not talking about an action that somebody does or does not do and could freely choose to reject, like, say, I'm going to vote for a different political party or something like that. We're talking about a substantial nature, like being an apple or being an orange or being a cow. The difference between a perfect human, as God created it, and a sinful or a broken or a fallen human, as we are now, is bigger than the difference between an apple and an orange. And so to say it's not fair, well, I would argue it is fair because it's only normal for like things to produce like things. But it skips the point that you are what you're made of. And if you're made of evil stuff, then you're evil. And if you don't like it, if you don't like that good says to you you're evil when you're evil, kind of proves the point, doesn't it? If you were good, you'd be like, you're right, I'm evil, I should repent. Thank you for telling me I'm evil, that's so helpful. But we don't do that. We reject it, and we say it's not fair. It's God's fault, which, do you remember from Sunday? What did Adam and Eve try to do right away? They blamed everybody else. Yeah? I didn't mention it very well. I said that Adam blamed who? Eve. And that Eve blamed who? The devil. Okay, but I skipped one part. Adam did blame Eve, but only after first blaming God. he doesn't just say, she made me do it. He says, the woman who you gave me made me do it, right? So he blames God, which is what we do when we say it's not fair that we're sinners and have inherited the disease of sin. So the piece I want you to take from this is that it is natural or normal or just the way it is that all human beings on this planet who are descended from the first two human beings are selfish in our first thoughts. And that in that selfishness, we are what God calls evil, and that we inherit this the same way you inherit other diseases from your parents. So if your parents have a blood type, you're probably going to get some of that blood type. If your parents have a disease like certain types of cancer, there's a good chance that you will also have those things, or certain types of brain disease, or certain types of body disease. You get the DNA of your parents. And I'm not saying that sin is in the DNA. It's not what I'm saying. But I am saying it functions the same way. Yeah? Go ahead. So she asked if sleep apnea is a brain disease or a body disease. It's a body structure, I don't know if I call it a disease, a body structure abnormality that prevents you from breathing the way other people breathe. You guys heard of sleep apnea? You know what it is? It's crazy. Some people have a small throat, and their small throat is able to, when you're sleeping, relax so much that it closes so that you stop breathing. So you're asleep and you're not breathing. Oh my goodness, you're going to die. So what happens? Your brain says, wake up so you don't die. So you wake up and you take a breath, but you don't know you woke up. You kind of are deep in sleep still, but not, like you come out enough to breathe, and then you go back to sleep again. And if you do that more than 5 to 10 times a night, it means you're waking up, an hour, it means you're waking up 5 to 10 times an hour all night long, which over a lifetime leads to all sorts of health problems and actually can lead to early death. I have it. Yay! So what do? They put a machine around your face that blows air up your nose all night long, which sounds awful, except for when you haven't slept in 10 years, it's from God. It is the most amazing thing. And it is a genetic thing having to do with the structure of your throat for a lot of people. So guess who just got diagnosed with sleep apnea, hence the question? My friend Trinity over here, who, when she doesn't have her machine yet, but when they hooked her up to a machine for a test 2 nights ago, she had the best night of sleep of her life. And she was off the wall with energy yesterday, which was great. So, yeah. But it is a structural deformation of your body that you can call it a disease, I suppose, but it just leads to your body being unable to do certain things. Yeah? Yes, Marlene. Then we got to say goodbye to everybody online. I just want to do that right now.
That I might have sleep apnea when I was younger, because my mom didn't hear me breathe at all when I was sleeping. She just couldn't hear me breathing whatsoever. And they made me take a test, and that turned out I didn't. But they made me take quite a few tests. I remember one I had wires all over my body and stuff.
Yep.
And they made me do a lot of that stuff. And then it turned out it was just my tonsils were too big, so I just got my
Tonsils taken out. They talk about that, and actually they talked about that with her a little bit too. But what I have learned with regard to my own apnea is that they can do things to your throat that can help for a while, but sometimes it actually will come back enough to do it again. So in the future, if you still feel like you're not getting rest, don't hesitate to get tested. It might change your life. Anyway, totally different thing. If you're online, there's going to be a sermon coming your way on this channel in, I don't know, about 40 minutes or so. So stick around for that. For the rest, actually, I'm just going to turn it off. That'll take a second here. And Cafe Sola, with your question about Cain and Abel, believe it or not, that's what the sermon is going to be about. So stay tuned for that. And